I was born in a little town in Kansas, western Kansas, called Dighton, October 11, 1929. So I'm very ancient. I'm 91 years old. I'm proud of it. I'm happy to still be here, put it that way. I had 3 sisters. There were 4 girls of us, and my dad was very proud of us. He would always say, these are my beautiful daughters, which made us feel good. I had wonderful parents. Yes, 5 years between me and the next 2. My older sister and I were close in age. Then there was 5 years, and then there were 2 more girls close together. And the 2 little ones and I were best buddies all the time growing up. It was a good family. Well, I got the job of outside chores. My older sister had asthma, so I didn't have to do dishes or clean house. I fed chickens and pigs and milked cows, and I must prefer that. Before dusk, we'd all go out in the yard and play kick the can or other running games. We had a lot of fun growing up. I went to art school at Kansas City Art Institute for 1 year, and then I got married to my high school sweetheart, Wayne. And we stayed together for 56 years when he died. When we graduated high school, the war was over. And then later when they had a draft, they didn't draft farmers. And he was a married farmer with children. We always lived in Kansas. I just worked at the farm. Sewed all of our clothes because we didn't have any Target or Walmart way back then. We just bought fabric and made our clothes. And I raised all the vegetables and canned everything for the winters. So I worked hard, but it was all fun. There are hard parts of being a farmer. Some years you don't have hardly any income if you don't get rain or if you get hailed out. But other years you have a good crop. In the end, it comes out all right. One good thing about farming, you can leave for vacation whenever you want. You don't have a boss. And we took our family on a 2-week driving trip every summer. We raised wheat and corn and milo, which is animal feed, and cattle. And my husband would wear a big cowboy hat and boots. He liked to ride the horses and herd cattle. He was a cowboy type and handsome. What was not to love? He was a good husband. He was a good father. He was just stern enough, to have good discipline, but never mean. Besides that, he was very smart, good businessman. We prospered, which a lot of farmers didn't. And I was very thrifty, so we were a good couple. We had 4, we lost 1 at a young age. But I have 2 daughters and a son, and they live in Florida and Arizona and Kansas. My daughters are Terry and Brenda, and my son is Todd. All married and have families, 8 grandchildren and about 14 great-grands, because they're all married and have children. Well, I painted a lot. I started out with oils. I did big oil landscapes, and I was pretty good. Then I switched to watercolor when I got older, just because it was easier, not much cleanup. But most of them I've given away. When I moved out of a big family house that we built in town in 1969, my son came and took photos of all the paintings, and they counted 102, because I had big halls lined with paintings, lots of bedrooms and so on. They took turns choosing paintings until they were all gone. A little bit of everything in high school, and then night classes afterward. Well, I didn't start painting until my kids were grown. I always wanted to, but never had time. And I have one daughter who is a wonderful artist. She just entered a big art show in Arizona and got first place. And she's teaching art class there. Well, they've been retired for a long time. They live in Florida. And they moved to be near the ocean because they loved it. They had a big sailboat. And my son lives still in Kansas. There were 2 families of us, and we took our road trips together for a couple of weeks, and they were really fun. Later on, when our children were all out of college, we started with that same couple, started traveling around the world. We didn't get to Africa. We had the trip planned when my husband got cancer, but we went to every other continent and did a lot of traveling. The very first trip we took was a driving trip through old Mexico, from Brownsville, cross country through Mexico City to the other coast and up that coast, and then back into Texas. And that was interesting because at that time, I'm going to say 50 years ago, probably at least 40 years ago, Mexico was so primitive and so poor. But that was an eye-opener that right across the border, living conditions were extremely different. I didn't come to California until after my husband died. I had a sister that lived in Murrieta, and I came to visit her, and I decided it's so nice out here in the winter. So I bought a house in the colony and moved out. I was 78 and came out and moved out by myself. My grandkids said, "Grandma, you're crazy. How could you do that by yourself?" I said, "Well, I just wanted to do it." And so I had about 12 good winters in the colony, going back to Kansas in the summers. Best of all worlds. I was in Kansas for the summer and got diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. My doctor said they thought there would be better specialists out here. And so I came out and had the surgery down at ribs and survived it, and lots of chemo. 9 weeks of chemo and then surgery, rehab, 9 more weeks of chemo. That's been a couple of years ago, so I've had time to bounce back. One oncologist tried to convince me just not to do it, just let it go and die, because you're going to die from it anyway someday. And I thought, well, I don't have to give up yet. Well, I had my daughter Terry and her husband were with me a lot of the time, because you can't live alone and do chemo. The doctors say if you don't have any family, you've got to hire round-the-clock help, because you can't be by yourself while you're doing chemo. It wasn't that bad for me, but my daughter and husband came. And I came in here while I was still doing chemo. It was a heck of a lot better choice than staying at home with round-the-clock caregiver. Costs about the same, and it's so much more fun than being at home, and I still have to be in charge of everything and pay for the groceries, and the person would just be there. So this was a much better choice. My choice to come in here, and I was going to stay till I got through the chemo and got back on my feet, and then go back to my home. Well, I got having too much fun. I sold my house. You know, the food was good, my washing was done, my house was clean, and I had fun activities all day long. Why would I go back and live by myself at the same cost? Well, I really like trivia. During the lockdown, when we couldn't have any outside activity, some friends and I, we had 1 day a week game day, and we did trivia and word games. And then another day, another friend and I did exercise for a group. We just had sheets that we followed and lifted the weights and did the kicks and got through. I think it was when Laurel came, she said she hadn't been any other setting that the residents took over and did their own activities, but we did, proud of us. I have a new position, President of Resident Council, meets once a month. Well, I conduct the meeting like you would any other business meeting. I have a gavel and a microphone. So I think it's fun. Laurel's been good, really good for the building. It makes the days go by fast and fun if you get out and do everything that's offered. It's a fun place to live. The food's good. You make friends in a hurry. And there's a few of us that every new person that comes in, we make sure we introduce ourselves and welcome them. When I first came in here, my son from Kansas called and said, "Mom, what is it like living in assisted living?" And I said, well, it's kind of like a 4-star hotel or a fancy cruise ship. Everything's done for you. Activities going on. It's a really good place to be. I don't know if they're all this good, but no, I do think it's one of the best.